Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, once again to another one of them ones where I have to explain to you how to not be stupid on social media by not being first and instead waiting and being correct, because we've seen throughout these past few weeks and months, years, how being first could have the benefit of you being the first person to get the word out, you getting the most traction, the most likes, the most retweets, the most shares, and all these good things, more traction to your social media accounts, and that's a potential good thing. The potential bad is you being loud in your opinion and proclamation, and then you end up being completely wrong, and then you have to get back on these same social media platforms and make an excuse or own up to it while also making an excuse. And that is the ultimate consequence of being first, when you could just sit back, relax, let it all play out, and then be correct in giving accurate information. Recently, former NFL quarterback, master of the butt fumble, and NFL commentator, at least for now, Mark Sanchez had been stabbed. And if I just stopped right there, and if you knew who Mark Sanchez was, or if you're somebody who doesn't like hearing about someone who looks like this being stabbed because you believe that this violence in the world should not be happening on a routine basis, you would say, oh my God, justice for this man, and I hope he is okay. And you know what? I could understand that. What I can't necessarily understand are tweets such as this. Sanchez or anyone being stabbed in downtown Indy should not be a surprise. We have a ton of fatherless and armed African-American kids descending on downtown Indy every weekend. If that offends you, F off, as the chief of police, Bailey, and Rev Harrison have told you this. Now, class, did I, at any point in these, I would argue, first minute, 30 seconds-ish, show you anything that has to do with an African-American or anyone being fatherless? No. All I've told you is that Mark Sanchez was stabbed. And now we can continue, because I'm recording this on Monday night. And at first, when this all broke, everyone believed that this act of violence just fell upon a good-hearted Samaritan like Mark Sanchez. But as the days have gone on, we've come to find out Mark Sanchez was somebody who needed to be stabbed in an act of self-defense because he thought he was bigger than the fucking program.
We received an amended or an additional probable cause affidavit this morning. Again, this is something that happens in virtually every case here in Marion County. And with that additional information, we have added more serious charges against Mr. Sanchez. At this point in time, we have filed a felony charge, a level 5 felony of battery involving serious bodily injury, which contains a penalty of 1 to 6 years. One of the things that I want to stress to everybody is that we are still in the early stages of this investigation. Chief and his team have a number of search warrants that are still outstanding. They're still tracking down additional information. This is by no means the end of this investigation. This by no means means that these are going to be the final charges that we move forward with.
And on top of that, it seems like the victim, or the person who had to stab Mark Sanchez, is not a African-American adolescent youth or grown man. So I'm sitting here wondering, what could you possibly say to excuse or make up for the fact that you just, for some reason, wanted to jerk off to your fictitious race play about a bunch of African-Americans in the moment when you hear about somebody getting stabbed? Oh, wait, you didn't, and you just sat there bitching and trying to move on to the next thing, because it's easier to do that than just to own up to the fact that you were blatantly wrong about a potential suspect or who the victim could be in the scenario. And I need to stress this because I feel like someone's going to try me with saying something along the lines of, well, Leon, there's really nothing wrong with what he said because there is crime in Indianapolis, just like there's crime everywhere. I need you to pump the brakes and understand the problem here. You find out a guy, prominent figure, gets stabbed, and initial reactions is what happened. Hope he's okay. But when people rush to just point the finger, specifically for some reason, at fatherless, armed African-American kids, you are putting out there into the world that the suspect at time who stabbed him is an African-American kid who you somehow know is fatherless. And that's the problem. Crime still exists no matter what. But when we rush to say, let's, for example, in a school shooting, say, oh, these dirty white kids all of a sudden are always doing it, and then it turns out being a black kid, you can't just turn around and mention how, oh, we still have to deal with the ramifications ramifications of this. We can and should, but first we're going to address the fact that you just put out a witch hunt for somebody that wasn't even a suspect. And that is the primary problem with this statement, and the random excuses thrown out later don't really cover his ass.
Just so we're clear, Mark Sanchez got stabbed last night in Indianapolis, and before any details came out about the person who stabbed him, what their race was or anything, Dan Dockich made it a point to say that he's not surprised because a ton of fatherless and armed African-American kids descend on downtown Indy every weekend. That's immediately where he went. This is coming on the heels of Karen Lacey being cleared of any wrongdoing after being accused of negligent homicide, after being railroaded by the police. In light of this evidence coming out, Dan Dockich thought it would be a good idea to immediately blame black kids, fatherless black kids in Indianapolis for the stabbing of Mark Sanchez. So now it's coming out that Mark Sanchez is going to be charged with 3 misdemeanors, and it sounds like, allegedly, that he could be the one that caused this whole situation and got himself stabbed. My words to Dan Dockich and anybody who had anything to do with reporting on the news of Karen Lacey would be just to be patient and wait for the actual reports to come out. Every time something goes wrong or something bad happens, it's not always black people's fault.
Which annoys me to a point, but it's the nature of the beast now. When tragedy happens, small or big, we have to play the guessing game, because the guessing game is all that matters. Is this person white? Is this person black? Are they trans? Are they a liberal? Are they conservative? Did they jerk off to that movie from a few years ago called Sausage Party? These are all factors that must go into the questioning of suspects or victims, because when it's who we want it to be based on narrative, we're going to run with it and we're going to talk about it forever. But when it's not, we're just gonna move on to the next thing, which I believe create this horrible precedent around tragedy, because I hold the unique conspiracy theory as someone who's played the guessing game before and has won and lost. My conspiracy theory is that we are all desensitized to this shit to where it is a routine. That gimmick of like gun violence or a school shooting where the wheel just comes in circles and through its cycles and then it moves back to the beginning just to do it all over again. That's a real thing. And we are all pawns in it. And if we're not willing to admit it, we're going to keep doing it again and again and again and again and again and again and again until we're all dead. And then we're reborn right out of our dad's testicles and shoot out of our mothers just to repeat the cycle again. Information is important, and this cesspool known as social media does a great job of distracting from actual information just for puff pieces, anecdotes, hot takes, and soliloquies that all have to do about nothing but one person's own narrative, which is why I beg you people that if you're going to do this, at least just wait. You can wait just a little bit. It's not going away. There are people who make random docuseries on murders that happened 40 years ago with new information, old information, recanting of stories. They wait as long as they can until they have every minute detail to the letter. And even then, some of those people fuck that up. And when you do this, you don't create a layer of trust. You create a layer of lies, 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 and lies. And that's not good. So for me, if you take anything from this video, don't spend your time trying to be first when I promise you that curvaceous woman right there, the truth, all she's asking you for is just a little bit of patience. And when you're patient, guess what? You could finger that nice clitoris all you want. Subscribe to the channel. I will see you all in the next one. Don't be arrogant. Don't think that you're bigger than the program. And if you just so happen to try, you may end up getting stabbed. Mwah! Goodbye.